Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of reviews by this guy on the Deem channel. And as you can see, I have a couple of handhelds laying here on the chest. And one of them is the Clockwork GameShell here. You have the LDK Game here. And also you have the Pocket Go. And as you can see, one of them is covered. Tried to cover it the best I can. That one is going to be a secret. Took a while for this guy to get here. I want to go ahead and update the firmware on all of these and then put them up against each other and see which one is worth purchasing in 2019 if you're looking for a retro handheld. So another episode of reviews by this guy on the Deem channel. Before we get into the topic of today, I'd like to say don't forget to let me spend my money so you don't waste yours by hitting that subscribe button. And if you're interested in keeping informed of new videos being uploaded on the Deem channel, don't forget to click the bell. Now I hope my audio is pretty good because I don't know, lately I'm having a hard time getting the audio good. I got the lighting a little better. I'm still having some trouble with getting the video to be of good quality. It's still a little fuzzy. I'm using the manual focus because the autofocus seems to go in and out and it just messes the video up. But no more babbling. As you can see here, we have the Clockwork GameShell. We have the LDK Game Horizontal. We have the Pocket Go here. And we have a secret one on the table here. I wanted to add one more to the mix. Originally it was going to be just these three. I want to update the firmware on these guys, and then I want to put them up against each other and see which one, if you're in the market for a retro handheld, which one is the best one to go pick up. Now obviously there are a ton of other ones, but I think these are the major players. And this video has taken some time to actually start recording. Honestly, I think the thought was in my head 2 months or more. I finally got to it. Let's go ahead, let's take a closer look at each of these. I'm not going to do a full-on review as the video goes on and I'm talking about it. You can click the card up at the top of the screen or head to the description down below if you want to see a review on all of these. And there are quite a few videos on this game show, so I will have a playlist there. But no more babbling, let's get into it. Alright, the first one I want to take a look at is the Pocket Go. As I said, we're not going to go into a full-on review. You can check the card up at the top of the link in the description. Let's get the box away. Personally, this one, I love the form factor of it. It reminds me of a Game Boy Micro. And if I decide to sell, which is actually floating around in my head, it's going to be kind of hard to pass this guy up. But either way, as you can see, you have your D-pad and your select and start, your action buttons, and your L and R. And it runs on retro FW, or I think that's what it is. And most of them nowadays are running off of that operating system. The actual housing and construction is constructed pretty well. The only issue with this is everybody complained about how there was some screen tearing on the screen. As you can see, I'll throw the specs of this guy up on the screen so you can go ahead and take a look at that. But it's still, despite that, is a pretty good emulation system. Now, apparently, they say that the firmware update is supposed to fix some of the screen tearing. Now, I've heard that there is still some. It does fix it a little bit, but let's get into updating the firmware. Alright, first step, you're going to want to go ahead and get the updated CFW firmware for the Pocket Go, and you do that by going to github.com. The link will be in the description down below, and you're going to want to download the latest CFW image. It might be different by now, who knows, but as of now it's the 1.3. Once you've downloaded that, you're going to want to unzip it. Now, I had some weird issue with WinRAR. I don't know what it was, so I had to go ahead and open it up in 7-zip or 7-zip. If you don't have that software, a link will be in the description down below for that as well. Once you have that unzipped, you're going to want to go ahead and look for a image flash software. I'm going to be using Etcher. That link will be in the description down below as well. And since I'm on Windows, I am going to download the Windows one. Once that is downloaded, you're going to want to open up Etcher. Now is where we're going to go ahead and flash that image. So you want to go ahead and select the image. You're going to look for your Pocket Go firmware image. You're going to go ahead and select that. Once you have selected that, it's then going to ask you to select the drive. You want to select your SD card. Do make sure that this is the proper SD card and that you have formatted it and it is completely empty, and start from fresh. Now you're going to want to click flash. This is going to take a while, so I do suggest you go ahead and head over to my Instagram, link in the description down below. Check out some of my video game collection. Also go ahead and probably follow me on Twitter and Tumblr. I do a lot of mini reviews on there, so you can go ahead and check those out. All right, now we are getting close to being finished. Once it has finished, the software will start to validate just to make sure that the image has no issues. You're going to get some of these pop-ups for formatting and some of the windows for the SD card to pop up. Just go ahead and close those. All right, now the flash is complete. Just close out all these windows now. You won't be needing them. Don't mind the errors. Once that's all closed, now it is time to expand the file system, because if you don't, it's not going to allow you to use the extra space that's on the SD card, which I have 64 gigs. So you're going to want to go ahead and download Mini Partition Tool. And here is Mini Tool Partition Wizard. This website, you want to go ahead and download the latest free edition of that. That's all you will need. Link in the description down below as well. Once it is downloaded, you're obviously going to want to go ahead and install the software. Once you got the software opened, you're going to want to go ahead and click Launch Application. Once you got it opened, as you'll see, it's got 57.46 gigs of free space, at least on my SD card. Yours will be different depending on what size it is. You're going to want to use that space, so you want to expand the file system so you can put games and ROMs on this part of the SD card. What you do is you want to go up to change letter. We're going to go ahead and change it to P, and that's for the main SD. We're going to hit apply. Once that is done, we want to select both partitions, the main and the one that's unallocated, and we want to slide the bar all the way. As you can see, now the P main has 57 gigs, but we're not finished. We want to hit apply, and now it will start to expand the file system on the SD card. All right, now file system is expanded and the firmware is updated. All right, let's talk about the importance of organization, which obviously I don't have. We got to the point where we have to change the SD card inside. I couldn't find the screwdriver. Now, unfortunately, I wish I can tell you guys the size, but this is the only one that I found that fits. And this came with a couple of kits that I got. I can't remember what kits I got. I think it might have been the PSP kit. So I don't know what size this is, and it does not say on the screwdriver, but it does work. So that's what we're going to be using. But now that we've gotten to the point where we flashed the updated firmware to the SD card, which I am using a 64 gig, which is in this container here, we unfortunately have to open the Pocket Go, which is quite annoying. But we got to get the 4 screws off to get to the inside of the Pocket Go. I'm guessing the SD card has to be on the other side because I don't see it. You dumb mother! Again, the SD, you might not have had to take it off to get to the SD card. Oops, this is what happens when you're not prepared. I think the SD card is right here, and that's all you had to do. But I guess since I got it off, I might as well change the buttons. Alright, don't be an idiot like me. I completely forgot that the Pocket Go was the one that, when I turned it on, didn't have an SD card in it. It doesn't come on because the operating system is on the SD card, but we knew that. But the SD card here, and there's no SD card on the inside like the LDK game. And unfortunately, I suggest not opening this. I mean, the colored buttons look kind of cool, but now I got fingerprints and lint inside here. You got cats, dogs. Stay away from it because you're not going to be able to get that off. So all you have to do is take the SD card out that's here and put the SD card that you flash the firmware onto, pop it in there. Then we turn the device on, which also when I took it apart, this thing kept falling out, and these buttons, which this side doesn't feel right now. This is what happens when you take stuff apart. And it is coming on, and it did work because that's what's supposed to come on. It's supposed to look like a retro Game Boy. And here is the new firmware, and I'm pretty sure you can probably go in here and change the themes. Yeah, there you go. You got skins. Let's go to skins. And as you can see, you can change it to a retro Game Boy looking skin. You have the comic book theme on this one too. But it's that simple to update the firmware. Let's get on to the next one. Update that firmware. And then at some point we'll move into putting these guys head to head with each other and see which one is the better pocket one. I'm going to have to take this guy apart again because unfortunately the screen is kind of sideways and there's hair and lint in there. So I'm going to have to find a way to get that lint off. So if you guys have any suggestions, please leave those in the comments down below. You think I'd already know how to do that. And next, the LDK game. Honestly, personally, I don't, as I said in my videos before, I don't think that it looks as good as the Pocket Go. It may have these rounded edges, but it's very boxy in my personal opinion. The actual design of it doesn't look all that attractive. That's just me. But apparently it does have a better screen, but earlier when I had it on, it seemed like from this angle you couldn't see the actual screen through the camera. So I mean, I don't know if the viewing angles are, I mean, I can see it, but as far as in the camera you can't, so I guess the viewing angles are okay. As you can see, we're going to get into updating the firmware here, but it has this cool comic book theme I think is really cool. But I will go into some of the problems that I've seen with the new firmware update. I think actually there was only one. I don't know why I put an S at the end of that word. But as you can see around the console, very plain and simple. I said before, it kind of reminded me of the build quality of a My Arcade. Let's get into the firmware. We're not going to go into too much babbling on this. You can always check the card or the link in the description down below for a full review of the LDK Game Horizontal. Let's get into the firmware update. I want to head over to this retro game Handhelds post on, I believe, Jutely's website, and that link will be in the description down below. It's the firmware update for all the RFW handhelds. Just want to go ahead, slide down, and click the LDK landscape, and then that will start to download the latest firmware update. Next, you want to make sure that you have an image burner software, and that is Etcher. At least that's what I'm going to use. I'm using Windows, but it is also for Mac and Linux, so you can go ahead and download whatever operating system you're using. Now you want to unzip the LDK firmware image, and you can do that by using WinRAR. I seem to be having an issue, so I've been opening up in 7-zip. A link, like I said before, will be in the description down below if you need to. Alright, once that unzips, you got your firmware CFW file here. I'm going to go ahead now and open up Etcher. And once again, we're going to be selecting the image. So you want to hit select image and then go directly to wherever you put that LDK firmware image. I suggest that you put this on your desktop. That's going to be the easiest to find. Unfortunately, I didn't do that. Once you have that image there, you're going to select the drive once again. This time for the LDK, I have a 32 gig. Just make sure that you're clicking the right SD card. You always want to make sure you're doing that, or you're going to be flashing the image to something you might not want to flash the image to. Click flash. Once again, this is going to take a while. While Etcher's doing its thing, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Check out some of our other videos on the Deem channel. Now it is validating, and as you see, we've completed the flashing process, and as you see, once again, it's not utilizing the whole SD card, so we're going to want to expand the file system again. Alright, now we're going to want to get mini tool partition. If you did not get this before, just in case you're just paying attention to the LDK firmware update and skip the Pocket Go, you want to go ahead and download the free version of this mini tool partition. This is what we're going to use to extend the file system. All right, once we get it open, we're going to hit launch application. All right, once the software launches, you're going to want to look for your SD card, and as you can see, it's down here where it says G roots FS, and you also got F, and you're going to want to look for I retro FW down here, and as you can see, there is 28.15 gigs unallocated, and we want to expand the retro FW to this. So we want to go up to extend, and then we're gonna push this bar all the way out. Oh, almost all the way out. I like to leave a little bit of room, like 200 megabytes left. I don't extend it the whole way out. All right, that looks good. I'm gonna stop messing with it. Then you want to hit OK. After you hit OK, it's not completed until you hit the apply button up at the top. After you hit apply, you'll get an apply pending changes. Click yes. All right, now that you got the firmware updated, this is quite simple. But then again, so is the Pocket Go. I was just an idiot. All you do here is take the back off. You're gonna go ahead and remove the battery, and as you can see, there is the SD card. Now you can use the SD card that came with it. I highly suggest you just use another one, just in case you want to go back to the old firmware. But you just replace the new card with the firmware that we just updated, and you're good to go on that one. The only plus about the LDK game over the Pocket Go is that this guy has the SD card, the operating system on that SD card underneath the battery, and it also at the bottom here has an SD card slot for more extended storage, expandability. And the Pocket Go does not, because as you've seen, that is where the operating system is, right at the top. No other SD card around the side. So when you're expanding storage on the SD card, it comes more in handy on that one than this one, although it's still kind of cool. All right, here you go. Here is the GameShell. I've done quite a few videos on that. I will put a card up at the top with the full review of this guy, but you can also go down in the description below and check out the playlist, which has the build, because you do put this guy together yourself. That's why it's called Module Portable Game Console. Go ahead and check out all those videos, some videos on how to get emulators and stuff on here. Now, some things have changed. I know in the beginning it seemed to be a little difficult, and honestly, this isn't as easy as the drag and drop method on this. I mean, you can download the cores into here, but you got to make sure that those cores are getting downloaded into the right directory, and then you connect to this via Wi-Fi, and then you can drag over your ROMs onto your GameShell, or you can also use FTP, which there are videos on YouTube. I personally am not going to go into it unless you guys really want me to. This is actually a really cool system. I actually backed this in the Kickstarter. This is the Kickstarter model, which the battery life on this, honestly, guys, it kind of is not that great. They did update the battery, and I guess maybe you can purchase the new battery on the GameShell or the Clockwork website and get a new battery for it if you did happen to get the Kickstarter version of it. Or you can also check the link down below. These guys are on Amazon. They're a little more expensive than they were in the Kickstarter. I think they're going for $150, which is not cheap, but this thing is rather cool. Let's go over the overall design of it. It has a Game Boy-like design. It kind of reminds me, and you could have gone with different colors when you were backing it, and you can purchase different colors on Amazon. I kind of like the white because it reminded me of an old retro PC, which also, if you look in the menu system, it kind of also reminds you of a computer. This is running off of Linux, which it's open source. There's a lot of cool things you can do with this that you can't do with the Pocket Go or the LDK Game. And as you can see on the back, I have a clear case so you can kind of see the different modules. This is the main board, and that's the battery, and you got the screen. Unfortunately, my screen up here is scratched, but I'm sure I can buy a new case because that's not the actual screen. And as you can see, this thing hanging out in the back, that's your extra 4 trigger buttons. Now, it's supposed to be connected like this. Unfortunately, I can't find the actual brackets that go on here. They hook onto this Lego like back here, and also I don't think I have this cable in right. I can't remember how to put it in there. I will at some point find those brackets and put that on, just not in this video. This video has been delayed far too long as it is. Originally, this didn't come with any of this. This is the updated firmware, which we're gonna get into right now. All right, now it's time to update the GameShell's OS image file, and you can do that by going to the GameShell's website, link in the description down below. It updates the Linux kernel to 5.2, activates MIDI device support and kernel, updates launcher to version 1.25, optimizes menu icons and orders. Launcher now supports Deem selections, adds more indie games, which is really cool. That's what I was looking forward to. They will bring you more exciting indie games to the future launcher, add more presets. All that I'll throw up on the screen so you can see once again, but that link is in the description down below. Once you download that image file, you want to unzip that file. I have been using 7-zip because for some reason WinRAR hasn't worked, and I know if you've been watching this video since the beginning, you've heard that 3 times. Sorry. Oh god, WinRAR worked for this one for some strange reason. Open up Etcher once again. If you haven't gotten that, link in the description down below. If you're just now following the GameShell firmware update, download Etcher for whatever operating system you have, Linux or Windows. You're going to want to select the image file, and it is Clockworks OS version 0.4. Hit open. Then it's going to ask you to select the drive. Once again, as always, make sure you're selecting the right drive. You wouldn't want to delete any. Oh god, my SD card is too small. Alright, now we got another SD card, a 32 gig. We're going to go ahead and select that SD card. Obviously, I don't want my Western Digital 4 terabyte. Go ahead, hit continue. And now, click that flash button. Now, once again, take a little while to flash. So if you haven't already, don't forget to click that subscribe button. And now we just play the waiting game. Alright, Etcher is finished. The flash is complete. Alright, now that we updated the firmware on here, it's as easy as replacing the SD card in here. Unfortunately, there's no way of taking the SD card out without taking this whole thing apart. There are a lot of changes in the firmware, which I'll throw up on the screen, but you also did see it during the firmware update tutorial before this. And originally, there was not this indie games, which I think is the coolest thing. Now, I was going to sell this. This is why I'm trying to push this video. I was going to pass this along to somebody else. But now that I updated the firmware, it's kind of hard. Now, these are all black and white icons. I do have a tutorial video, which you can check in the playlist, that shows you how to put different icons here. They can be color. It is kind of cool. It's got a retro Mac look, to tell you the truth. I might do a little review on this firmware update. I don't know. All right, guys, here comes the hard part, which is trying to stand up and have my arms around the camera. Quite annoying, but obviously I can't play these games upside down. Now, I chose a few selected games. It's a couple of games for each system that people on the internet kind of think are hardware pushers. Do I agree or disagree? I guess I kind of lean towards agreeing with their opinions, so I picked those, and I picked 4 different systems. I picked NES, I picked Super Nintendo, I picked Genesis, and obviously PlayStation, which is towards the end here. As you can see, my battery's already dying, so we might not even make it. That's how bad the battery is in this Kickstarter version of the GameShell. For a minute there, I thought the sound wasn't going to work. And this game isn't great by any means, but as you can see, it kind of has a pseudo 3D to it, and that's kind of impressive on the NES. I died. And as you can see, I think that the audio is far better on the GameShell, but that's not necessarily the emulator. The emulation, that is the speakers itself. But the frame rate seems to run really good on here. I don't see any screen tearing currently, and I'm going to die again in the same spot. I didn't see any screen tearing on this game, but there has been screen tearing on other games. Let's move on to the LDK game. Alright, as you can see, there's some really bad glare. There is a screen protector on this LDK game, and here's that cool comic book theme. Now here's where I found one of the issues after updating the firmware. Before, if you were to select that, it would just bring up the list of games, and it did it. When I was first testing this out, it didn't do that. Maybe that was something initially that had to happen. So never mind. As you can see, the speakers in this is much louder, but still, I think the speakers on the GameShell are better. It does sound pretty good. And you can speed up. And as you can see, I don't see any frame issues, and I died in the same spot again. But we don't have to make this video too long on this game alone. Let's get on to the next game on the NES. Oh, dead again. Alright, here we go on the Pocket Go. Dim the shutter speed a little. I don't know, maybe the ISO, I don't know how to fix it. My videos still look a little too bright. Hopefully I figure this out soon, but I'm babbling now. Let's get into this Batman versus the Joker. And so far, I don't notice any screen tearing anywhere on the screen, except for the fact that I'm not paying attention. Ah! Game seems to be running really well. That's the highest volume, so the speaker on the Pocket Go is the worst, honestly. Honestly, I said honestly twice. That's to be expected. This is a smaller unit, and the speaker in it's probably really small. As you can see, the speaker in this at full volume isn't too bad. As you can see, as you jump, I do notice some screen tearing. Hopefully the camera's picking that up. I think I did see some screen tearing on the LDK game with this, and talking and playing doesn't work for me. I don't see any screen tearing on this one right now. It seems to be playing the game fairly well. Except for the fact that I suck. And it's not easy to play this game through your camera screen. But you've heard me complain about that before, and I'm not the only one. The speakers in this is way better than both the Pocket Go and the LDK game, in my opinion. I guess you gotta kind of do that fast. Either way, you see the game's working really well. The emulation's good, no frame rate skipping. The sound quality is really good. There are a decent pair of speakers in this GameShell. All right, let's play one more game for the NES. And as you can see, yep, I got a USB cord in because it's dying. I think the sound quality on this one's better. And I got the volume all the way up, but the LDK game is louder, but it doesn't sound as clear. As you can see, there's no screen tearing on this. The screen is fairly bright. It's not as bright as it can be. I don't know if you can hear that. Really crackly. The sound quality on this is not that great for this particular game. I will say the picture quality on this is a little better than the GameShell. But in my personal opinion, I'd rather the screen be a little dimmer and the game play better. I don't see any screen tearing, but the audio is just not great, and that might just be the emulator itself, obviously. Now that's the LDK game, and it sounds a whole lot better. There is no crackling of the sound or anything. As you can see, I pressed the button once and it's jumping. But the screen, I know you probably can't really see it on here, is extremely bright and vibrant. There's always been a better screen in this LDK game than the Pocket Go, and honestly, unless the brightness is turned down on that GameShell, the screen on here is better as well. And I don't see any screen tearing like I did for Batman. And there's no frame rate issues. Alright, we're going to start with the GameShell here again, and we're going into the Genesis emulator. Now, I want to let you know that this is not the firmware update. I had to put the original SD card back in here because for some reason the Pico driver emulator was not reading any of the Genesis files. So unfortunately, I had to put this in there for the sake of testing. Now I am using, I forget which emulator it is, but it's the Gen Plus. I'll put the name up on the screen. Alright, here goes. Zero tolerance for the Genesis on the GameShell, and it is a shooter. First-person shooter. It is pretty impressive to see something like this on the... Oh, shoot. On the Genesis. And I ran out of bullets. Not a whole lot of fun playing this with a D-pad, honestly. I mean, it's impressive to see this type of game on a 16-bit system, but it's honestly, it's kind of annoying to play with a D-pad. I can't even keep the damn thing straight. I thought there was a guy there. Sound quality is alright on the Pocket Go. Very easy to run out of bullets. It's impressive to see this on the Genesis console. I didn't even know this game existed until I decided to make this video, and I did some research on hardware pushers, but this game isn't all that fun now, is it?
shooting, I mean, the music sounds alright, but the shooting sounds a little choppy. Look at that. There was definitely some flickering there on the Pocket Go. I don't know why it did that. It's the first time I've seen it running any game on here. Doesn't seem to be doing it anymore. Ah. Other than that, the sound quality is good and the frame rate looks pretty good. I don't see any reason why it would be unplayable on here. It's definitely, there it goes again. Now here goes the LDK game, and as you can see, the screen has really vibrant colors. It really pops. The audio is way better than both the GameShell and the Pocket Go. It's an overall better experience on the LDK game. And as you can see, I was able to turn the brightness up so the screen does look pretty vibrant. I can't say that this screen is as clear and vibrant as the LDK game. I think the LDK game is definitely going to win in the screen department. But the screen does look fairly well. Now, my thing is, I don't know if it's just the plastic coating that's creating some of the unsaturated colors, I guess, and who knows. It's just not as vibrant as the LDK game. And right now it seems like my X button's not working, but I'll have to take it apart. The pad's probably shifted and it's not making contact with the board. More babbling from my mouth. But as you can see, the frame rate issues. The frame rate is good, sound quality is good, the speaker's just really low. I don't see any issues with this game. I mean, I guess people on the internet considered this a hardware pusher for the Super Nintendo, so that's why I included it in the list. And the screen is really vibrant on this. Although it sounds a little slowed up. Yeah, definitely the sound is slowed up. I can't really tell. The game looks like it might be a little slowed up. You can see the frame rate up at the top. It does seem to be dropping below 60. Went to 48 right there. The more enemies that are on the screen. So definitely, the game is definitely slowing up. Yeah, definitely frames are dropping. I guess these are hardware pushers. Now, I've played other games, and the games work fairly fine on this system. As you can see on the video in the description down below, my review on this LDK game. But on this game, and on Donkey Kong, the frames are definitely dropping. Ah, there it goes. Yeah, the frames are down there. Look like it's way below. It's down to 11 there. But it looks like it's still working there. I never played this game, but that's a little weird. The fire is in your way and you can't see anything. But as you can see down there, it's claiming the frame rate is dropped, but it doesn't look like it to me. I knew that was weird. Look at this. It's actually playing really good on here, and the sound quality is good. I mean, there's a little stutter in the sound. As you can see, it is dropping a little below 60. We've gotten close to 53 there. At least the game is playing, though. It does seem like it's a little slowed down. got the counter at the bottom for the FPS, but I can't even, honestly, you can't even see it. I'm guessing it dropped to 50, 50.5, or is it 30? It looks like it's at 30 frames a second. As you can hear, bad. It's already dropped down to 12, 16. And honestly, it's handling it better than the Pocket Go, but that's not saying much because it's unplayable. And here we go, some Castlevania.
You don't belong in this world.
Now, this whole time I didn't even have my headset in with my mic. Lovely. As you can see, the game's working fairly well. There is no frame issues. The sound quality is pretty good. I mean, it is a little low. The audio is way better on this LDK game. Speakers are fairly loud. As you can see, the game's working flawlessly. I don't see any issues at all with the sound quality or the frame rate. As you can see, it's running fairly well. As you can see, the sound quality all the time is not all that great on the Pocket Go. God, I cannot play through the camera screen. Can't believe I got him that time. Either way, I don't see any screen tearing, but I am looking through the camera screen, so pay attention, see if you notice anything. So far, I haven't noticed anything. I think the game's actually running fairly well.
I told you we were going to have a fourth contender in this video. That is the RG350, the retro game. I like that they always put these little paddings in there. They did that for the Pocket Go as well. Here's the console itself. Let's set that aside for now. Let's see what might have also came in the box. And as you can see, nothing much. Oh God, is that a USB Type-C? And as you can see, we got a manual. Obviously, we know this thing is from China. I got it from AliExpress. Paid a little more for that than any of the other ones, except for the GameShell, which cost me $113 when it was during the Kickstarter. This is in Chinese. I can't read that. Is any of it in English? Yep, we got English on this side. It's a pretty extensive manual. I mean, it's full color. Better than some of the ones that I've seen. We're not going to go into this because this is pretty self-explanatory. Screen is a 3.5-inch 4:3 aspect ratio. It's an IPS screen. You got 320 by 240, and it says tempered glass. Down here, the CPU is a JZ4770 at 1 GHz DDR2 and 512 megabytes of RAM. You got a lithium-ion 2500 milliamp battery, and you got your buttons, which we'll go into that layout later on. It is Type-C. Oh my God, finally someone put a Type-C on a retro handheld. And as soon as I picked it up, this thing has some weight to it. I always like to see weight. For me, that's kind of quality. It's already got lint on it. What's new? This is a lot bigger than these other guys. As you can see here, the size is definitely a lot bigger. So it's not as portable as, say, the Pocket Go or the LDK Game. But, I mean, it's kind of the same size as that GameShell. Let's put those back to the side there. As you can see, you have two analog sticks, which kind of feel just like the PSP analog sticks, so they feel pretty good. You have a really good D-pad. It is very clickish. It is plastic instead of a rubber, but they were all plastic. And oh my god, and those buttons, they feel really good. They're really clickish, they sound really responsive. Unfortunately, my B has a scratch or a smudge on it, so that's kind of upsetting. Now, this thing came in several colors. There was, I think, a clear gray or black one. There was the black and orange, which is the one I was going to originally go after, but when I seen this, it was kind of a hard decision. Ooh, those trigger buttons feel really good too. Sorry, I got distracted when I was pressing them. You have a USB Type-C up here for charging and a second USB. I'm not entirely sure what that's for. Maybe one is specifically just for charging and this one is for accessing the memory on the device. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe you can also add an external controller to this, which would be really cool because there is a micro HDMI out. You have an AV out as well. I mean, I guess if you have an older TV, that's kind of comes in handy. On the back, there's not much here. It has the name of it. This looks pretty legit. I'm not gonna lie. It has a slight texture rubbery feeling to the back, but it's not rubber, it's plastic. On the bottom here, you have the power button. It's kind of weird to see the power button on the bottom. You have a micro SD card slot here, so I'm guessing that's for expandable storage, the volume rocker, and the reset. I don't understand why this isn't flipped. I mean, I guess the HDMI being up here is kind of cool, but I mean, I don't think you're gonna connect it like this and play it like this, but who knows? I guess that's why they did that. But it's kind of weird to have these buttons on the bottom. I think it would have been better if they put the volume rocker on the side here and the reset and power button on this side, but they didn't go ahead and do that. That's my only gripe so far. Other than that, it looks really nice. And it's using the same retro FW, I think that's what it's called. I always get it messed up, operating system. This screen looks really nice in my opinion. Doesn't there you go, the analog stick on the left here does work, and I'm sure you can use, yep, that goes through the menu. You got your games on here. Kind of hard to do this in the direction that I am in. And you got, as always with retro FW, there are a lot of free games on here. Maybe I'm, oh no, it's right there. No, that's not, it says free, yeah, there it goes, free Doom. I thought it was a little weird that that might not have been there, and that looks like King of Fighters. And Open Sonic? When was Sonic ever open source? But either way, here are some of your emulators on here. You got GBA, you got, it's called Temper, but that's obviously a TurboGrafx 16, as we would call it in the States. PC Engine in other parts, Super Nintendo, Genesis, all the emulators that you would probably use on here, DOSBox, and I keep hitting that with my hand. I'm really liking this. I have seen a new version of this that's made in aluminum. That seems kind of cool, but they did away with both analog sticks, which, I mean, I don't see how you can utilize both analog sticks. I mean, the PlayStation at some point did end up having a DualShock dual analog stick controller. There is apparently a firmware update on this on the same website that I got the other firmware updates, so maybe I will do that in the future. I'm not going to do that for this video. I just want to test the video. Seeing that this is the newest one out of the 4, I'm sure the firmware is going to be alright to play the games. Well, final verdict, I have a complete and utter big mess here. Unfortunately, this RG350 has given me absolutely nothing but trouble, which is pretty sad because I wanted to compare it to these other 3. I couldn't get the SD card to load. It wouldn't load it. I don't know why. I've tried several SD cards and it would not mount the card to the system. I got connected to the system, but for some odd reason, you can't just drag and drop games into here without using the file explorer in here. So that's a shame. So I couldn't get any games on here to try to compare to these other handheld systems. So unfortunately for this video, I could not compare this guy to these, which is upsetting because I really like the build quality of this. I really like the size of it. I like everything about it. It just seems to be a big pain in the butt. If you're looking for something easy, in my opinion, this is not it, even though I've seen many videos on YouTube where people got it to work and I followed the steps to a T and it just will not work for me. I don't know if that SD card is messed up or that SD card slot is messed up. I don't know what it is. I know I'm babbling now, but since I can't have this guy in the running, at some point I might do another video on this, a full-on review, if I finally get it to work. Since I only got to compare these three, I've always liked the look of the GameShell. The GameShell is not as easy as dragging and dropping. I mean, there are ways of getting into it through FTP. You can drag and drop games over to it once you connect to the Wi-Fi. But when you start putting emulators on there, it's a little hard. The sound, the speakers are okay, but they're not all that great. And honestly, the screen to me is a little washed out, but that's just me. I mean, it's not horrible. Pocket Go, back in the day, people would say that this had some screen tearing. I didn't notice the screen tearing on the new firmware at all. The sound, the speakers in there are really small, so the sound's not all that great. I love the form factor. I love that it reminds me of a Game Boy Micro. I almost said it backwards. There are some sound quality issues on certain games. PlayStation doesn't work all that well. The 2D games work okay, but there's still some sound quality issues. Now to the LDK game. I'm not a big fan of the design of it and the way the console looks. I've always said it reminds me of a My Arcade, one of those cheap arcade systems with a bunch of crap games on it. The firmware update makes the comic book thing look really cool. As you can see, if I get this up here, that comic book theme looks really cool. The screen is really vibrant. I don't see any screen tearing. I think I've seen some issues with Batman Return to the Joker, or it might have been the Adventures of Batman and Robin. I'm not entirely sure. Other than that, the games work really well. The speaker in here is better than both of these. The screen in it is more vibrant than either of these. If I had to pick one of the three for you to buy in 2019, if you're still looking for a retro emulation handheld, I'm going to go with that LDK game, and that's only because I could not get this one to work. I've heard this one functions way better than all three of these, but I have no proof, and at this point I can't recommend it. So the LDK game is where it's at, and that's the one I'm recommending, and you can pick these guys up for cheap. And as I said 2 months ago in one of my videos, I was going to be giving this guy away. There will be instructions in the description down below on how you can enter to win this guy, and I will be giving that one away. These other two are going to be for sale. I did say I was going to have a hard time parting with this after the firmware update, but I'm still gonna let it go at this point. I might do another video on what changes there are to the firmware update, but when I do sell this, the link will be in the description down below, or you can go ahead and follow me on any of my social media, and I will have a link to purchase this guy on Mercari. It will not come with the updated firmware. You will have to do that yourself. You can refer to this video again to do that. And I will also have the Pocket Go for sale as well. That one also will not come with a firmware update. It will come stock. You will have to update if that's what you'd like. If you have any questions on any of these handhelds, please leave them in the comments down below. If you know what issues I'm having with this and how I can fix it and how I can get it to read an SD card, please leave those in the comments down below. I really want to get this guy to work. I do like it, and I would like to make a full video review of it if I can get it to work. I've already messed the screen up, of course. If you like what was contained in this video, as always, please hit the thumbs up, consider sharing amongst friends and the rest of your social media, and as always, don't forget to let me spend my money so you don't waste yours by hitting the subscribe button.